We're talking about the Spyro Reignited Trilogy, which is remakes of 3 games that came out 20 years ago. Well, what'd you think, Christian? This is kind of your first run-through of the series.
Yeah.
So what'd you think?
Well, as a first playthrough of Spyro 1, 2, and 3, I really enjoyed them. Thought they were fantastic, especially Spyro 2. Wow, that game's great.
Okay.
And it stood out to me in this collection in a way it didn't, playing like halfway through the PlayStation 1 version.
Right. Because I was like, Christian, check out this amazing game, Spyro 2, and then I think as we both played that PlayStation 1 version, I was like, or we were like, this maybe doesn't hold up as well as Tucker was saying it does. But the thing I think is interesting is I still feel that way coming out of this remake, and it feels like maybe you had a more positive experience with this remake than you did with the original.
Yeah, I really liked the original though. Like if you go back and listen to the footage, may it be known, may it please the court, that I said on several occasions that this game is very good. Far out. I don't know, it's just like something, like having the right analog stick do what I want it to. And just kind of having a controller I'm comfortable with.
Yeah.
It made it that much better for me. It kind of like just heightened everything and elevated it to a whole new
echelon of awesomeness.
Okay. Because to give them credit, this is, like I've been kind of saying, this is mechanically as close to the original as you could possibly hope to get, I feel like.
Yes.
And it seems like all the changes they made mechanically, which are very few, were kind of quality of life things that were in no way a bad thing. Like you can just jump to any level, and like you were saying, the camera's on the right stick, which is nice. From a technical perspective, I think these remakes are kind of they set like a new precedent of doing this the right way, it feels like to me. Unless you maybe are deaf, and then there's some things to talk about there, but I don't know if that's within the scope of this socket necessarily, but...
Yeah, music's not very good. I don't like the remastered music.
Yeah, that kind of gets into some weird things where I don't understand, because you do have the original soundtrack available.
You do?
You do not have the original graphics available. So I wonder what you don't even have the original voice acting available. So I don't understand maybe why they felt the need to create this weird division with the soundtrack that doesn't exist anywhere else. Like from a philosophical perspective in this. From any other perspective, this is a brand new creation. It's odd.
Yeah, and the Crash trilogy, that didn't have, like, they didn't feel the need to remake the soundtrack. I mean, they did, but it was largely authentic to the originals.
Yeah.
With some, like, little minor tweaks. And this one, they're like, let's redo it all, and then just put the original stuff in there in case people don't like it anyways.
Yeah, and I mean, that original soundtrack, or those 3 original soundtracks are great, so...
Yeah.
I didn't switch really between them at all. I thought I kept with the new stuff, and I thought it was fine. It didn't bother me, really. Except in very minor circumstances where, like, the Hurricane song is one of my favorites, and I feel like they didn't really live up to it with the new one. So that was kind of a bummer, but I never felt the need to switch it. I just felt like, this is a fitting soundtrack for what I'm doing, and I like that it has like this dynamic soundtrack, which is kind of interesting. It's kind of jarring occasionally. It doesn't always work 100%, but it kind of does the Banjo-Kazooie thing where it just kind of shifts. It's the same song, but it's kind of shifting in tone and instrumentation as you move through the level. I don't know. It's fine.
Yeah. I didn't like it, but it's fine.
But it's not actively bad. It's just you can't live up to...
It's not as good. You can't live up to perfection. When you screw with something that's perfect, man.
Did you ever watch the interview with him where he's just detailing how he made this? It's so cute.
Is it?
He's just like burp, burp, burp on the keyboard, and he's like, and now I can just pitch it up an octave. That's like a whole new song.
Wow.
Now this is really where I'm giving away the trade secrets. This is where Mozart would be jumping out of his grave and saying, I want to live in this century, where I transpose that part from there up to there. and it plays that same piece of music. So I've just done a whole transition there, took all those instruments and moved them up that much. Looks like fun, doesn't it?
So I feel like the next logical step here is the graphics. A lot of issues with the graphics for me.
Okay. Do tell.
I would say artistically and technically, or I got a lot of eye strain playing this game, and I think it's because it runs at this really wonky frame rate, and there is just motion blur on everything. Like if you swing the camera, it's just like
yeah.
It's really hard to look at sometimes. There was a lot of visual, like in the original, there was a lot of like visual signposting where these levels kind of go. You're just in kind of a small section of maybe this larger world, and they do a good job of letting you know where the boundaries of that world are, and I think they brought that over in these remakes in a good way. I think they are true to the ways the original games were designed well, as far as how the environments look.
There are still some areas, though, where you'll hit an invisible wall, and it'll be like...
Yes. First game's kind of guilty of that, because they do a lot of, like... There's just these weird pylons, and you can't go past them for some reason. And it's like, oh, okay, that's fine, I guess. But that was in the original. That was, but then you have, the character redesigns, and Spyro, I think, looks fine, especially given that these are the Skylanders people, and they made Spyro look terrible. He looks fine here. He maybe looks a little less expressive to me than he did in the originals. But, and then just, changes to secondary characters that I don't think are awesome. But did you run into any... Because, I mean, from an outsider perspective, this could just be like dumb kids game. Like, it just looks like, any game like this, really. There's no to me, there's no like objective issue with the way the characters are designed. It just doesn't match the way I think of them.
Yeah, I played a bit of Spyro 2, and what really stood out to me was the kids, because I remember playing the original Spyro 2 and being like, how the heck are they going to make these things look?
Oh, Hansel and Gretel or whatever?
Yeah, because they just look like these watermelon heads with two giant eyes plopped on them.
Pigtails.
With pigtails, yeah. And here they kind of make them into like this kind of, I don't know, it reminds me of like Illumination Kids or something. And I was totally fine with that. Yeah, I thought it was just fine.
Okay.
I didn't have any issues with anything. Ripto looked a little weird. Like I couldn't understand what they were going for there, but...
Yeah, I mean, in the original he's a blob with a horn or whatever, so it's like, what can you do? But... Some of them, though, I really don't think translate. Like, in the third game, there's the Jack and the Beanstalk section. And he's just got, like, the 8-ball eyes. Like, he got hit in the back of the head and his eyes are bleeding or something.
Yeah.
And I'm guessing in the original, he just had, like, the little dot eyes, and it was just, like... Because back then, you could get away with it, because it's, like...
Yeah.
There's 3 polygons on this character, but when you try to bring that forward, it looks kind of... wonky. And the UI, I just don't think looks good. It's functional. Like I like the functionality they added to it, but just the way it looks is very mobile game to me, and it looks cheap to me. I guess.
Yeah, that's understandable. Yeah, the map is very jarring if you turn that on. It kind of feels like they just kind of forced that to be there.
Yeah.
And then I was okay with the map UI stuff, though. I mean, that was the same across all 3 Spyro games, so I think they just kind of made it be the same across all 3, which I'm sure was probably not the case for the other games, for the original. So yeah, I was totally fine with it. I mean, it was functional enough, but it was ugly.
Okay. Yeah, but functional but ugly is better than good looking
broken
but non-functional. So, but you had mentioned how the map is the same in all 3, and that's kind of what I would love to hear from you, is just, originally these games came out over a series of years, and there was this progression to it, but you just, you went from the beginning of Spyro 1 to the end of Spyro 3, and just this one kind of chunk. How was that experience for you? Was it kind of weird going, because Spyro 1 is like it's an outlier in the series in a big way.
I liked being able to play through them all in order, and starting with the first one especially, because if I played some of the Spyro 2 remaster and then try and go back to 1, I'd be like, I can't do this. But being able to start with one and kind of being in the headspace that this was all there was at one point in time, I really liked it. I mean, I finished it and 100%ed it in like 7 hours and was like, oh, I guess that's it. But there's 2 whole entire games left here, which was awesome.
Okay.
It would have taken a lot longer for anyone back in the day without the sparks tracking, gem tracking in Spyro 1. Yee. That would be a nightmare, because you just have to meticulously comb through levels looking for gems that you might have missed.
Right.
But yeah, let me really appreciate each Spyro game in context, to where I really liked 1, and it was a very simple experience, but I really liked it because of that. And then 2 just kind of was like this explosion of new stuff. Yeah. Just crazy. Like, you've got these orbs that you got to get now, and you've got like all these mini games that you're constantly getting access to.
Right.
And it's crazy having something new to do in every new level, and having just like a handful of different activities that you can partake in at any one time.
Right.
Which is like almost the opposite of Spyro 1, which was just collect the gems, free the dragons. Collect the gems, free the dragons.
Right.
And then Spyro 3 was kind of just copy and paste, but then they had some new characters in there. And so I appreciated the variety that offered.
Okay. Because you sound pretty up on Spyro 3. I don't know. You said there was a kind of a point where you came around on it.
Yeah.
Was that like a specific point, or was it just...
Yeah, it was kind of when I understood what Spyro 3 was getting at, and kind of why it was they were putting in those other character sections. Because Sly Cooper 3, where you play as different characters, like, I wasn't feeling any of that. Right. I was like, why am I playing as these characters? Right. Whereas in Spyro 3, I felt okay with it, because I kind of was enjoying the variety that they were giving these characters, because it wasn't just it wasn't just now play as big strong Yeti guy,
right,
and then bash a bunch of things and get to the end of the level, because they had like, do a boxing match that's really slow and stupid, but you have a boxing match in there. Or I really liked what they did with the monkey character, because the first one's just kind of like run through with these third-person controls and collect the gems and platform through. But then they do like this first-person shooter thing, and then they do this top-down shooter thing, and then with the kangaroo lady, they do the left and right side-scrolling thing that I guess is a Crash homage or something because of the egg name.
Sure.
So yeah, I liked how they kept on switching things up, and it just wasn't the same every time you got to one of those character sections.
Okay. Because for me, what playing Spyro 3 here kind of made me do is appreciate 1 a lot more.
Oh, interesting.
I had always seen 1 as kind of just this basic, like you were saying, it's just kind of like get through the level. But going back through it now, I feel like there's a lot of mechanical variety within the levels in a way that Spyro 2 kind of busted out into this separate system.
Yeah.
But like there's the thing with like the fairies that kiss you, and then you can attack the enemies, and there's like gates you have to get through that way. And then Spyro 2, maybe it's the trophy thing where I just want to get through this as quickly as possible now, and it's like messing with my head. But Spyro 2 kind of introduces this busy work to me that I feel like 3 buckles down on, where they're introducing Metroidvania concepts for no real reason other than to deny you 100% in a level, basically, until you come back. I don't understand what the...
Yeah.
It was
Spyro 2 did a similar thing, though, where you had to get the abilities in order to completely do everything.
Yep.
And I liked how Spyro 3, they don't worry about the abilities anymore. They just tack on the extra characters. So Spyro has the entire skill set right out the gate.
Right.
You don't have the whole God of War, Zeus is stealing my abilities. Why are you doing that with your sword, Zeus? The one I didn't like was the flying penguin. Is that what he is? A penguin?
Sergeant Bird.
Yes, the Sergeant Bird.
With
not
the
a
French
fan.
Hummingbirds.
The camera did not handle that well at all.
But that brings up kind of the last main thing I want to talk about, is just I felt like I ran into issues. I have to give them credit for, because this is an Unreal Engine 4 game. And this might not have any bearing on how real life works, but in my mind, Spyro was built upon this custom engine that was designed to make Spyro games, and now you're kind of taking that and trying to build it within this framework that wasn't designed for it, and I felt like that created issues for me. Not like crippling issues, just like you could tell this doesn't really play like it should. Just, I'm trying to think of like an example, because it's really not, it's not crippling in any way, but it's just like, you know, this jump didn't work quite right, or it kind of glitched out a little bit on me or something like that. And I'm sure there was stuff like that in the original, but it just gave me the sense that I was kind of playing this game obfuscated by this layer of it existing in this other engine or something. And I don't know how you could get around that. I guess that's not really a criticism, because it's like that's just how games are made. There were definitely moments playing this where I was like, well, that sucks, and then I would realize it's a problem not with these remasters, but just with the way these games are designed. Yeah.
Oh, fascinating.
Yeah, it's really cool to me that they can put out basically a 20-year-old game and make it modern without really changing the heart of it, and people are like, yeah, this is awesome. Like that, I think that's cool.
Yeah, and for me, especially after coming off of Red Dead Redemption 2, where realism is everything,
right?
Whether or not it comes at the expense of fun, Spyro is just fun. And I 100%ed the game in the first game in like 7 hours, and I was like, wow, that was great. It all runs a really fast clip. You got variety hitting your face all the time. Yeah. I loved it. None of the games are really hard, which is kind of disappointing. I mean, there's a few challenging moments. There's some difficulty spikes. But most of it's just kind of running around collecting gems, but it feels good. Yeah. It feels good to charge into things, break jars open, collect all the gems. Yeah, and Sparks' little thing, the way he collects gems that are in your close proximity, that feels fantastic. Like, you do absolutely none of it, but the sound effects, the way things click, the way the gems go ding.
Let's determine where it should go on the list.
Sure.
Okay. I feel like you would put it above Yoshi's Story.
Absolutely, yes.
Okay.
You're not feeling above Yoshi's Story, though, huh?
No, I could see it above Yoshi's Story. I guess I don't really have a firm place for it, really. I enjoyed it a lot, so I guess I would above Sonic 2. We're starting to get into like personal favorites.
That's the nostalgic zone.
Yeah, I maybe wouldn't put it up in that register, but like I could see it like Sonic 2 Danganronpa.
Absolutely,
area.
That's where I was thinking. That was the ballpark that I was comfortable with.
Okay.
I'm totally okay with between Sonic 2 and Danganronpa.
See, I could see it above Sonic 2. I mean, Sonic 2 is just one platformer, but here you got 3 platformers.
Yeah, with one of them being very good, one of them being good, and one of them being okay to bad.
Depending. Like, if I had a kid, I would probably get them this before I got them Sonic 2, because I'm sure they'd play Sonic 2 and they'd be like, oh.
Totally.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that works for me if you want to do between Game and Sonic 2. Okay.
Yeah. I feel like this game's cheating, because they just have 3 games in there.
Yeah, but it's a thing you can go
You're
by.
Right. You're right. It is a thing. But like Sonic 2 is like this nice little appetizer that leaves you wanting more.
Yeah.
And this game's like this 3-course meal that you're just done with.
This is a unique one, because, I mean, if this was just like Sonic Gems Collection, we wouldn't be siphoning it, because it would be like, well, yeah, just go get this instead of Sonic 2.
Yeah.
But they put the work in, and I think it paid off, so.
Definitely.
Okay.
It's good.